Now we are in pandemic. In this moment, we can act and do much more than before. We are limited in action because of this pandemic, even it is worth teaching and learning. We don't know when it is over. Now education places like elementary school, junior high school, senior high school, and universities are closed. I'm a student at college, feel like bored staying at home without learning, and maybe it feel by all students. In this case, we need something to solve this problem. We need way to learn even at home. One effective way to learn instead of learning in the class is learning by online lecture. Even we don't go to the college, we can learn at home by online. So it is really good way to learn, because we can learn without going to the college to college. There is the reason to bring my argument here as government team that agree that learning by online lecture is effective way during pandemic COVID-19. Before I'm coming to my deep argument, I would like to give a brief definition of this motion that is going to debate it today. The motion means that in this pandemic, the best or effective way to learn is by online lecture. To make this debate runs well, we have to give a limitation of the discussion. This motion, of course, focus on the student to learn, will be effective and appropriate. With this motion must be given a special explanation. This become a reason to limit the motion, focus on senior high school and universities. Okay, coming to my argument. There are some sides that we have to look at. First side is look at effective side for side. For now there is no another effective way to learn except of online learning. Example, we know that in pandemic most of education places are closed. So there is no way to learn except by online. So that is the reason why I agree with the motion. If the opposition team doesn't agree the argument, please give another effective way except online learning.
I would like to say that COVID-19 first discovered in early December last year in one of the China cities, that is Wuhan. So after which is the time began, the government of China applied the online learning process to their students. So yeah, the COVID-19 or the coronavirus pandemic has forced the government around the world to move the teaching learning process from the school or college to their homes. So this is, we call it the online classes, right? So yeah, however, with various background economic background, so that the access to the technology, to the technology in specific, that is domestic development infrastructure, has not been evenly distributed, makes online learning not optimal in this pandemic. In the status quo, in early January, the majority of the students in all countries affected by the coronavirus outbreak have already implemented the online classes, right? However, because as we know, not all the students come from the high, middle and high high and upper economic, like rich family. There are still some many students who come from poor and lower middle income families. So, for example, I am a student in one of the university in Indonesia. In fact, my family and I lives in the city where the infrastructure of the city itself is better. But for me, there are still some difficult in learning and teaching process in online for me. So yeah, the reason I say this is because if we look this problem from another perspective, there are still some lecturer giving the material without following by more explanations, and even there are still some lecturers just give the material and after that give many assignments to their students without do the process question and answer process, between the lecturer and the student itself. So in addition to the survey, in status quo said that the teacher gave many assignment to the student even when the student didn't understand the learning material. So I believe that assignment is based on the lecturer pressing curriculum completion target. So which is turn makes the learning and teaching process isn't effective, right? Yeah, and as I mentioned it in earlier about the infrastructure, domestic development infrastructure, right? There is no government readiness to giving facilities their students in this country, in Indonesia, right? We can see in the village. For example, we can see in the village, the student who lives in the village, they are really get as many some difficult in learning online process, right? So, like their network. So why I say this is government not have readiness to facilitate their student. So in these sections, I just only want to say that I totally disagree with the motion said that this house believe that online lecturer is ineffective during the pandemic, and what the first proposition said that it's a really good way to learn because we can learn without going to college. It's sure not the good solutions, right? Okay, so for my final thoughts for these motions are first, the government should pay more attention to equitable development in all regions in Indonesia, so that online learning process during the pandemic is more effective. And second, lecturers should give more explanations to their students during the learning. Don't just pursue the curriculum targets. So lecturer inquire how to make the teaching and learning process is effective for their student. So yeah, I think this is my this is my point. There are 2 points that I can give for these motions. So thank you very much.
During COVID-19 outbreak throughout the world, many made the community, even education, stop in each of its activities as well as the community. But COVID-19 is not a barrier, but we must accept as long as COVID-19 is still endemic. Education, including students doing their activities online throughout online, can save time and can also prevent the transmission of COVID-19. By learning online, the learning process is not stopped, but is effective and efficient, even though not face-to-face. Of course, this online learn is very useful for the help of students, the community or student and other teachers, helping the government in overcoming the pandemic and keeping it from transmitting it to relatives. Online learn can also be done such as reading material while doing leisure activities. For example, while listening to music, sleeping, and reducing boredom in learning by and the material can be accessed by anyone, anywhere, and anytime. I think enough.
Thank you for the time. Talking about education is talking about the future of a nation. This is why the education have to get special attention so that the future of a nation can be granted. If not, it will cause serious threat to the sustainability of a nation. This is what we are facing when the pandemic situation has potential to threaten the education sectors. In this pandemic situation, there is definitely a decline to the quality of education due to in this pandemic. Online learning is done remotely or is done handled, but the fact teachers, students, and parents are nervous and stuttering with learning methods or learning models. This pandemic is really is greatly influences the quality of education in Indonesia. Process of implementing the teachers feel is not effective, or this is difficult to use by students and teachers. Okay guys, the number one of obstacle of the online learning is technological. In our region or in Indonesia, the technology in each region is not same.
Sorry, interruption.
Okay, yes, please.
May I say something? Does the distance learning applied during the coronavirus pandemic only have a negative impact that will harm the students? Or has it happened that the development of technology in learning daring has been proven to lead to adverse consequences?
Okay, the online learning process or daring has two effects. There are negative and positive. The positive, the daring can make easy the learning process in this pandemic. But the learning process can effective even the students and teacher in their home. But we need to see again to the our situation of our country, of situation of each region, whether the technology in each region is good or not. Yes, this is the point of obstacle. The what the daring can apply in each region. And for the negative effect about the daring with the online learning application uh, can make our data is danger because many information that I get from my friends uh, and in information for the YouTube and so on. The example for Zoom cloud. This Zoom cloud sells our data in hacker. This is a very danger for our data. Example, your account can handle by the hacker, or you cannot open your account and so on. This is make the tarring is not effective. And yes, there are some negative effects that fall by students as long as this pandemic with tarring. First, cybercrime. The cybercrime can attack our online learning application. There is a sentence from Germany film. Who am I? Which is no data is safe. I think with this online application learning can sell our data, phone, and so on. This is very dangerous for our data. According to the news or for information that I heard, the Zoom application, kinds one of online learning, Zoom video. This is can sell our data to hacker. So when we open our email or our Facebook, or this is our data, this is can is not this is cannot open because our data had to sell by server. And second, teaching and learning process is not effective as face-to-face learning because the explanation by teacher is limited and make the students is not understand or is not enough understand to the material. Third, sticking tasks. A lot of tasks the teachers give to the students because the online learning is not effective. So the teachers just give the tasks to the students as mark that the student is present. And the last, limited capabilities technology of students and teachers. Okay, actually, as students, we have to have our facilities in learning process, but it's not students can buy it because the limited economy or finance is not hasn't financial or it's not has or the saving money is not to buy it. It's not enough to buy it. So guys, this is very difficult when we get the task and the task is needed the laptop. Okay guys, online learning was the effective negative effect that felt by students. Okay guys, online learning will effective if the technology in our region is the same. But the fact the technology in each region is not the same. The survey of status quo, the highest result and the say of students say no for daring again or daring method. In a sense, daring method is not effective. Okay, thank you. This is from me.
I agree with Ms. Magapira because during the pandemic COVID-19, this greatly affected our community activities, including teaching and learning in the world of education, the dismissal of various school and university activities. We as students, especially students, our learning process was limited where face-to-face learning was shifted to e-learning, system-change learning process such as learning daring or online. Most students feel online learning as an effective learning process because various things that are rarely obtained by students include, for example, gather with family. With the learning system, every student conducts a learning process at home, so that they can gather with their families. We might normally spend time on academic and non-academic activities in campus, and then prize in form of take-home test. Each tertiary institution carries out a midterm test to test the ability of students about what they have learned over half the semester. Not a few lectures would require students to memorize and master every material that has been studied in each subject, so that the exam can answer every equation with maximum result. However, with the learning system, each test is carried out in the form of take-home test, which means this exam is an open book, so that it can make it easier for students to prepare for the exam, so that if this opportunity is utilized as well as possible, it becomes an opportunity to improve the value of the GPA. And then triggering the acceleration of educational transformation. The government has implemented a technology-based distance education system, of course, encouraging educational institutions, teachers, students, and even parents to be proficient in technology. And that triggers the acceleration of the transformation of educational technology in this country. This surely has a positive impact because the use of technology in education is in harmony with the continuing era of Industry 4.0 revolution. And then many online learning applications. The emergency of online learning application can only make learning stay home can be done effectively. Online learning applications are developed by providing features that make it easy to do online learning.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yes, please.
but in your explanation in point 5, you say that online learning will be easier with online learning applications. While we know the technological and economic capabilities of each student are different. Also, not all students have facilities that support online learning. So, to install online learning applications on their mobile phones is a problem for them. Also, weak connections and expensive internet quota are also problems faced by students. especially students who live in areas where the internet network is inadequate. And this is not only faced by students. Some lecturers also face same thing.
Well, I said there are many online learning applications that can help you learn effectively while staying at home. My intention here is this online learning application is one of the ways that has been prepared so that during the COVID-19 pandemic, we can still do the learning process without having face-to-face to face our gather in classroom. And if there are students or lecturers who live in area where the bad network connection, then I think they can try a little by going to a place wide internet network, because each student or lecturer has a learning process scheduled done for 24 hours, so they can insert a little time to find internet network connection. And then so students already know the consequence of choosing to go to school. There will definitely be difficulties in a pandemic like this, an example of a bad network in online learning. And then so I say that they should also try for themselves, because the teacher and the government have tried to facilitate them through learning material. If you say the internet expensive, it is not the personality of the government for each student. So according to my student, should also have a business in online learning during the pandemic. And and then a healthy lifestyle, as there have been many steps regarding the prevention of COVID-19, namely by diligently washing hands, maintaining good sleep patterns, and continuing to exercise by paying attention to social distancing and maintaining a healthy diet. For a student, sometimes a healthy lifestyle tends to be ignored, such as irregular eating patterns, regular exercising, and late night sleep patterns, and various other unfavorable lifestyle associated with information about this virus that can be prevented by a healthy lifestyle make many students parents begin to change their lifestyle for the better to prevent the transmission of the COVID-19 virus. And from some of my explanation earlier, I agree that during this pandemic COVID-19, we did not discuss as student is continuing the learning process, and will the learning process from face to face for a while transfer it to the learning process daring or online. And I repeat again, in the process of learning daring or online, this is one of the effective learning process for a while in this COVID-19 pandemic, because we as students, on the other hand, we will prefer to find anything that was like with normal lecture conducted on campus, and most students are far apart from their families. But on the other hand, during this pandemic, besides we can meet the family at home or lecture, we also continue to daring online. I think enough for me. Thank you.
Thanks for the time and opportunity given to me. Well, as a member of opposition, I disagree with the motion that says that online lecture is an effective way during pandemic COVID-19. Well, during the COVID-19 outbreak almost everywhere in the world, online learning was considered to be a solution for teaching and learning activities. Although various educational institutions have agreed, this method has generated a lot of controversy in the community. For educators, the online learning system is only effective for assignments. They consider to make students understand the material. Online learning is considered difficult. The adjustment of teaching material is not as flexible when teaching in class. In addition, the technological and economic capabilities of each student are different. not all students have facilities that support this distant learning activity. Weak connections, incompetent device, and expensive internet quota are real obstacles. This also applies to educators who carry out state duties. Then, online lectures are actually carried out to break the chain of the spread of coronavirus disease or COVID-19, but insane provision of solid assignments indirectly burdens students and is judged to actually suppress the students' psychology. Even consider there is almost no space to rest. The students certainly expect the lecturers to give an understanding of the subject, not to give assignments on a larger scale, which is also not necessarily understood by students. In addition, some courses are held at class hours that are not according to the proper schedule. The conclusion I can reach is online learning has many weaknesses, such as first, educators find it difficult to control which students are serious about taking lessons and which are not. Second, learning is more theoretical and minimal practice because it doesn't allow to afford direct interaction between educators and students. Third, for those who live in a location where communication infrastructure is still poor, they will certainly find it difficult to access the internet. Fourth, not all students have and are able to access the equipment needed, whether it's a computer, laptop, or other device for online learning. Fifth, too many distractions that can interfere with students' concentration while studying. Sixth, the reality is that online assignment, not online learning. 7. Some courses are held at inappropriate lecture hours. So that is why I disagree with the motion that says that online lecture is an effective way during pandemic COVID-19.
I want to first give rebuttal to the argument coming from the opposition team. For the general, you are true so far that online learning is not effective way to learn because of some reasons you have said. But in special side, I don't agree. Why? The motion talks and focuses on pandemic. Means that in this pandemic or during pandemic, the only effective or good way to learn is online lecture. What you have explained it in general way or in normal condition. But the truth now is that we are in abnormal condition. In normal condition, I can be with you that online lecture is not as effective as in the class, but in pandemic condition, it cannot be. There is no good solution to learn in this condition except online lecture. If you give this argument of the motion, you also have to give solution to learn. What is another way to learn in this pandemic? Instead of learning by online, give solution. From this all agreement, coming from my government team, I strongly agree that online lecture is effective way during pandemic.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everybody, I'm Lina Sarina. I'm English student. In here, I will explain to you all about my opinion learning in this pandemic era. In here, I will just tell you about what students complain. Now, I have two complaints. First, as we know that many students live far from a good networks. So, some of them maybe not attend of the lesson. They are not joined to the class. They are not follow the class. Because they are not live from a good network. It's the first. And second, as we know that many students complain, especially me, have not quota guys. they are having quota. They haven't quota to join to learning, to join to classmates, to join the lesson, to join to the material. So what the conclusion? The conclusion is this is government's responsibility. Like this. For me, as the government have to follow my opinion. They have to, or government have to buying the quota for the students so that they will easy to learning, easy to join to the classmates. In minimalist, the student will easy to learning. One problem is done. So I think that government have to understand what students feel. Okay? I think that's enough from me. Thank you so much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.